I am about to get married to someone else, and my first one true love, who I thought was dead, is not dead and he's coming home to me, but I'm engaged. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Deb if you are new here, and if you're not, then welcome back. Today we are going to be discussing all of the books that I read in February. Now, I only read 4 books in February, I think, and at first I was like, oh, that's not very good, that's not like, you know, worth making a video about. It absolutely is, and I think we need to, at least I do, I'm not sure about you guys, but we need to not measure how successful a reading month is based on the quantity and more on the quality, because whilst I didn't read as many books as I would have wanted to, the ones I did read, bar one, we'll get to that, were really, really good and I really enjoyed myself. So it was a successful month, and also February is shorter and, you know, things happen. So hopefully this month it will be a bit better, but I am currently in a reading slump, which makes no sense to me whatsoever because I have so many books I want to read. I think it's just been a really, really busy time, so it's like getting that time to read I've been struggling with, but I digress. Let's get into all of the videos that I read last month. So how I'm going to do this is I'm going to start from the book I read that I liked the least until like the book I read that I liked the most. There's only 4, so it shouldn't take too long, but I dipped my toe back into Colleen Hoover, not because I bought her books, or let's just clear something up. I do not hate Colleen Hoover. I'm not one of those people who are like, you know, really anti her. However, I have read so many more books since I first read her books a few years ago that have made me realise actually, whilst her books are really easy to read, they're pretty mid, right? However, I have some of her books that I haven't read still on my shelf. Actually, I think that was the last one I've just read now, which I'll talk to you about in a second. And I didn't actually buy this book, I didn't choose it. Me and my boyfriend did this challenge where for our anniversary we had like a list. So for example, we had like buy each other their favourite snacks and their favourite, something that's their favourite colour, something that's their favourite, I don't know, drink, that kind of thing, and then we exchanged afterwards. So my favourite colour is purple, so my boyfriend decided to get me All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover, which was sweet, you know, because he knows I've read her before and this book is purple, so it made sense. And at the start, I should say, of February, I was like, do you know what? I've just finished reading some really thick books. I think I had just finished reading Akata. I was in the mood for something a bit lighter and a quick read, so I thought Colleen Hoover typically is very easy to read and I'll give it a go. Huge mistake, guys. Oh my god, I wanted something light, I wanted something easy. This is not that. You need to read all of the trigger warnings if you want to read this book, because I had no idea, I had no clue. How I decided what to read was I read the first chapter and said, if I like it, I'll keep going. And the first chapter was quite good. I was like, oh, this is a bit scandalous, this sounds great. And little did I know that this book is depressing. It is genuinely, I don't understand the pleasure someone can get from reading this book. It is just so depressing to me. So this book is about Quinn. It is written in a dual timeline, so we get to read the past and the present. And I quite like dual timelines or dual perspectives, so that was something I was like, cool, this seems nice. So we start off the book by realising Quinn's current fiance is cheating on her. And shockingly, she meets her now present partner because the person her fiance is cheating on her with is his girlfriend, and he just happens to be pacing the corridors ready to confront his ex-girlfriend and Quinn's current fiance or past fiance about what's happening when Quinn rocks up to surprise her fiance, like, look, I'm back, surprise, only to then find that there's this strange man pacing the halls because he reckons that her fiance is in there doing something naughty with his girlfriend, right? And that's how she comes to meet Graham. And so we kind of see her perspective from the past, heartbroken from her fiance cheating on her, meeting this guy that's also had the same experience of his girlfriend cheating on him, and healing from the heartbreak and falling in love with Graham. And then we see her current relationship with Graham, which is really rocky. They've been married for a few years and things are not going well for them, right? And so you're kind of wondering what happened? Why, how did they fall in love? And also, why is the relationship right now on the brink of breaking down? And the reason for their relationship being in such a bad way is really hard to read. It doesn't say it on the blurb, so I don't really want to spoil it just in case anyone there does want to read this book. But I would just say, read the trigger warnings. As a woman, especially reading this book, this topic is one of my most biggest fears and something that I am terrified of happening. So I was not prepared when I read it, and yeah, it's a hard read, and honestly it's really sad, and I just didn't know that was going to be the case of this book. And I know Colleen Hoover has a reputation of writing some very heavy topics, and a lot of them are important topics, you know, they're topics that should be spoken about and written about. However, sometimes you just want a bit of light, fluffy nonsense, and this is not it. If you want light, fluffy, romance, cutesy, don't read this book. If you want your heart to be broken and you want to read about something that's very normal, it happens in life, however it's extremely heartbreaking and traumatizing and sad, then maybe you'll like it. I think I gave this book a 2-star. I can't remember, but it was very low. I did not enjoy myself. I read it in a day, to be fair. It was a quick read, but I did not enjoy myself. And it wasn't even like, you know, when you're sad, but like you like that heartbreaking feeling. It wasn't even that kind of sad. It was just sad. So after that heartbreaking read, and I was like, what did I just read? Why did I just put myself through that? I was very, very glad to then read Fourth Wing. And the thing is with Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros is that it is, or has been, everywhere, right? Many people have been talking about Fourth Wing. I think I'm pretty late actually to reading it. Iron Flame is out now and there's a whole dialogue about whether that's good or bad. However, I really enjoyed Fourth Wing, like most people have said they did, but I didn't love it. So it wasn't a 5-star read, and I was shocked because I really thought this would be a 5-star read for me, but it was a 4-star read, and a very, very solid 4-star read. I am a little bit torn as to why it wasn't a 5-star read, because when I think about it, it had all of the things that I do like in the book. It had really good dialogue between characters, it had really good side characters, it had a good plot, like it's an interesting plot, an interesting idea, and a good romance. Although, goodness me, some of the X-rated scenes I was not expecting to be like that. I did not know there was going to be some raunchiness in this book. It's nothing terrible, it's nothing Credence level, but it is definitely like, oh, okay. So for anyone who doesn't know what Fourth Wing is about, it's essentially about a girl who is living in a world that's divided up by quadrants, right? So you have different areas you can go into to specialize to help serve your country. And so our main character, what is her name? It's been a while since I read this actually. Violet Sorrengale. She is a writer by nature. That is what she wants to do. That is what she's always done. However, her mum, who is a very important woman, says, no way is my daughter going to be a writer. No. All of us are flyers. Is that what they call them? Flyers? I feel like that's wrong. What are they called? Riders. All of us are riders, and you are going to be a rider. However, becoming a rider is no easy task. It is extremely difficult. People are guaranteed to die upon their quest to become a rider, because to become a rider, you essentially have to bond with a dragon, and that is no easy task. And to be deemed suitable to be picked by a dragon, you need to go through all of these trials that are mentally and physically draining. And so we are reading Violet's journey to become a rider, and you know, it's dangerous, especially because her rival is also a rider. So this book has got an enemies to lovers trope in it. There's a lot of politics as well, and of course what people love is the dragons. I like the dragons. It was an interesting idea. It was uniquely done. I haven't read a book that does fantasy in this way, in terms of kind of the dragons having a real personality. I mean, if you've read the Crave series by Tracy Wolff, then there are dragons in that book as well, but they're done quite well in this book. I did enjoy it, but I don't know. I think I was also listening to an audiobook at the same time as reading this, so I didn't find this super easy to get through like non-stop. It was a fun read, but it wasn't like I cannot get enough of it, which is why I gave it a 4-star. But it was really interesting, and I am so intrigued to know what happens in Iron Flame, because the way this book ends is like, oh, okay, now we're getting to the good stuff, you know, because a lot of the book you are just reading about trials and preparation. So I kind of feel like this is a good setup, but then I hear mixed things about Iron Flame, so that's where I'm a bit nervous to go into that book, because people either love it or hate it, and I didn't love this book as much as I've heard people talk about it. So maybe I'll be one of those people who do love Iron Flame. But either way, a solid 4-star read. I would recommend this to someone who wants to read a fantasy book, especially if you like dragons and a good enemies to lovers. So the next book I read is One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and this is actually the first book by Taylor that I have read in a paperback version and not listened to the audiobook, and I loved it. Do you know what? I was saying in another video, I was like, could Taylor be one of my favourite authors? It's too soon to tell, but I think she might be, because at that point I'd only read Daisy Jones and The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. So now I've read yet another one of her books and I've also loved it. I think it's safe to say she might just well and truly be one of my new favourite authors, which is so exciting because I've only really had a few favourite authors in my life, so it's great to add someone else to it. And I loved this book. I gave it a 4-star, and whilst I gave it only a 4-star, I still think it was a really good read, and I think I enjoyed it more than Fourth Wing. They're completely different genres, but this book I couldn't put down. I was like, I need to know what happens. And I just really enjoy Taylor Jenkins' writing style. The way she writes her characters are so realistic. They seem like real people, and I love that about her books. So One True Loves, again, is such an amazing idea. She basically wrote a book about this character called Emma. And Emma has a one true love, a high school sweetheart who she just fell in love with from the first moment she saw him, right, called Jesse. And they have this amazing relationship bloom, and they get married and they have a great life together. But unfortunately, one day Jesse goes missing in a plane crash and is believed to be dead, which absolutely devastates Emma. It was so sad to read, of course. But Emma finds it in her to move on, and she meets someone else, Sam, I think his name is, and she is happy. Do you know? She's against all odds of the heartbreak she felt losing Jesse. She is happy now in her new life. However, now she's engaged to her new partner, Jesse is found alive, and he didn't die in that crash, that helicopter crash. He was just stranded, and he's now coming back home. And now Emma's got to decide, oh my goodness, I am about to get married to someone else, and my first one true love, who I thought was dead, is not dead, and he's coming home to me, but I'm engaged, but I'm also married. What do I do? And so you basically read her trying to choose between these two guys. And do you know what? I love a good love triangle. I am definitely a sucker for the love triangle trope, and I think it is done quite well in this book. In my opinion, I think it was obvious who she was going to choose, but I'm not sure. If you've read it, let me know if you kind of clocked on. However, it was still really interesting to read, and I wrote down some really great quotes that I wanted to tell you guys about, because Taylor Jenkins Reid, she writes some beautiful lines in her books. So I wrote it down in this really great reading journal. I love this. It's got like sections where you can write the book title, you can write some notes, you can rate it, and just it helps you kind of keep track of your thoughts, which is so helpful for these videos. So what I wrote down in this book that I loved reading from One True Loves is, good things don't wait until you're ready. Sometimes they are right before, when you're almost there. And I figured when that happens, you can let them pass you by like a bus that's not meant for you, or you can get ready. And I get ready. And I was like, oh my God, that's so true. Because do you know what, like, people always say when something is meant for you, it will happen, or people always say something won't pass you by, but that takes a really passive approach. And I agree, what's meant for you won't pass you by. However, you also have to be ready for what's meant for you. You know, it might be approaching you and you're thinking, oh my God, do I want this? But you have to make that decision, like, yes, I'll go for it. And I think that quote was just, loved it. And the other one was, you don't tie yourself to someone unless you're scared you might float away. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is so true. Like, you don't attach yourself to someone so much so that you lose yourself, unless you aren't happy with who you are, unless you feel like you're not secure in that relationship, or maybe they might leave, so you just tie yourself to them so tightly. And when I read that, I was like, oh, that is so true. So yeah, I wanted to share those quotes with you. I love them. So yeah, I loved this book. It is definitely a 4-star. I would love to give it a 5-star. I just don't think it had that extra oomph, you know, like when you know you're reading a 5-star read, you get that feeling. But it was so close. Like, maybe it's a 4.5. I did really enjoy it. So the last book I read in February, and probably my favourite book I have read in a very long time, is The Passengers by John Mars. I actually listened to this on audiobook, and I also have a video all about this book on my channel. I'll link it somewhere here, hopefully, if you want to find out a bit more about this book, because I think this book is basically like watching a Black Mirror episode. So if you love Black Mirror, you will absolutely want to read this book. It was amazing, especially listening to the audiobook. Chef's kiss, honestly. So this book is very futuristic. It's about self-driving cars, and there are 8 passengers who get stuck in their self-driving cars, although not by accident. A hacker has hacked into the cars and is keeping them hostage and is threatening to kill them all, essentially. However, this hacker is merciful in some ways, because he says, do you know what, I will let one of you survive, but that decision is going to be based upon the public and a jury. And so the hacker broadcasts this ordeal of these 8 passengers essentially having no control over their cars. They are driving to their deaths as per what the hacker has said, and if they want to live, they've got to put up a fight. They've got to tell the public why they should be saved, right? And the public are eating it up. They are having so much fun watching these passengers drive to their deaths. It feels to them like a reality TV show, although it's absolutely not. It's real life, and it is terrifying, and you get to kind of see and meet these 8 completely different passengers, and it's just so thrilling. It's hooking, it's gripping. Well, I didn't read it, but it was fast paced when I was listening to it. The characters are so interesting, and you really keep thinking about this book once you have finished it, because it feels kind of scarily, eerily possible. I mean, there are self-driving cars now, right? We've got Elon Musk. So whilst you're like, this is crazy, this is insane, you're also like, could this happen in real life? And I feel like it could happen. It's not that out there that is impossible, so that makes it even more like terrifying to read, but so good. So yeah, that's kind of a little taster. Like I said, if you want to know more, I've got a whole video on my channel about this book, but this was the easiest 5-star, so good. I would recommend it to anyone to read it, especially the audiobook. It is amazing. So those are all of the books that I read in February, just 4, but I had a really good reading month, bar all your perfects. I will not be reading another Colleen Hoover book for a while, if ever. There is like 1 or 2 that I am intrigued about. I've heard about Confess, and I kind of want to read that because apparently there's real life confessions in that book, and that does sound cool. However, I am very happy with the other books I read, and I would recommend them 100% to anyone who hasn't read them already. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you had a really great February reading month as well, and let me know what you are reading in March. I've got a few ideas of what I might read. I've already started one book. I'm reading Ruthless Vows, the sequel to Divine Rivals, and I am enjoying it. However, I need to get just like into the flow of just spending some time reading and doing nothing else so I can really get into it. But hopefully I have a few more 5-star reads this month, and yeah, I will see you all in my next video. Bye guys.